Hello, in this tutorial I'm going to be going over how you factorise a quadratic equation. So here we have the general form of a quadratic equation. ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So this video will focus on cases where a equals 1 and 1 only. Okay, so a being this leading term here in front of the x squared. If a isn't 1, I will go into how you factorise those quadratics in another video. Okay, so when we factorise a quadratic, we want to put it in the form where we've got two brackets, still equaling 0. When a is 1, we can go straight ahead and write x at the start of both of these brackets. And when we factorise, what we want to do is work out what number goes here, what number goes here, and the sign that goes in front of that number. So i.e. plus or minus. So is it x plus the number or x minus the number? The same for both brackets. Okay, so I will point out that when you factorise a quadratic equation, this is the answer you are looking for. You do not take it any further to actually work out values for x. This, in this form, is factorised. Okay, so I think it's best if we just go straight into an example, and then the process of how you factorise will become much clearer. So let's say, for example, we have the quadratic x squared plus 7x plus 10 equals 0. And we want to factorise it, so that is to put it into a set of brackets. Now as before, we have 1x squared here, so a equals 1. So therefore we can go straight ahead and put x at the start of both of these brackets. And now we can work on the numbers and the signs that go with those numbers. Okay, so essentially what we're asking ourselves with regards to the numbers is two numbers that when multiplied together give us 10, yet if we add or take away give us plus 7. Okay, so let's focus on the factors of 10. So these being the two numbers that when multiplied by each other will give us this value. So 10. Now with any number, the easiest set of factors are 1 and the number itself. 1 multiplied by 10 gives us 10. Okay, so the simplest factor, and in terms of working out the factors of numbers, it's a very good one to start with, and you'll see why. So now what you do, so we got your 1, you double it. So it would double to 2, and you think to yourself, does 2 go into 10? Well, yes it does, because 10 is an even number. So next factor is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So that is the next factor. And we keep moving forward if you're unsure on the actual factors of the number itself. So next would be 3. Well, 3 doesn't go into 10 because it leaves a remainder. Next possible number is 4. 4 doesn't go into 10 because again it leaves a remainder, this time of 2. 5, well 5 does go into 10 2 times. So you write down 5. Now as soon as you notice that you are starting to repeat numbers on both sides of this middle line, you can stop. So we've gone down so far now as to get 5, but 5 has already appeared on our list, so we don't need to write that down. And we stop. So these are the factors of 10. 1 and 10, 2 and 5. Okay. Now we have two sets of factors and we need to work out what set of factor goes into these brackets. Now this is where you ask yourself, let's start off with the first set of factors. Can we get to plus 7 by adding or subtracting 1 and 10? So the easiest way to do this is to take the larger number of the factors, so in this case 10, 10 plus 1 would give us 11. 10 minus 1 would give us 9. And you'll notice that neither of these numbers are 7. So this cannot be the answer for these brackets. It's still a factor of 10, but when you add or subtract them, we don't get our plus 7. Now we move on. 2 and 5. Again, focus on the larger number. 5. 5 plus 2 gives us 7. So now you'll notice that this number here is the same as this number here. So we can stop, and we know that our factors then for our brackets are 5 and 2. 5 and 2. And now what you need to do is ask yourself, well, how do we get to plus 7 with 5 and 2? Well, we would need a positive 5 and a positive 2. So this 5 here would be positive in this case. And that's done. That is x squared plus 7x plus 10 equals 0 factorised. And that is the answer to that question. Okay, so I'll go through another example just to make sure that it's clear. So here, for example, we have the numbers or the equation x squared plus 8x plus 15 equals 0. So again, a equals 1. So we can set up our pair of brackets in exactly the same way, where x leads both brackets on its own with no number or coefficient in front of that x. So now we do the process again. What two numbers, when multiplied together, give us 15, yet if we add or take away, give us 8. So again, let's repeat the process that we did above. So now we have 15, and we need the factors of 15. So the easiest one is 1 and 15. So so you add 1 to this one, so you get 2. Does 2 go into 15? No, it does not, so you don't write it down. 3. Does 3 go into 15? Yes, it does. 3. So 15 divided by 3 gives us 5. So when we're looking for factors, you want numbers that were multiplied by each other give you the exact number above. You don't want any left over or any remainder. So next possible number is 4. Well, 4 doesn't go into 15. Next number is 5. 5 does go into 15 3 times, but you'll notice that as soon as I write down 5, my numbers are repeating, so I don't need to continue. So these are my factors of 15, 1, 15, 3 and 5. And now we look for a pair of these factors that, if we add or subtract them, give us our 8. Well, I know that by looking at 1 and 15, there is no way I can get to 8. 15, for example, 15 plus 1 would give us 16. 15 minus 1 would give us 14. Neither of them are 8, so this cannot be the pair of factors that I'm after. So that means it must be 3 and 5, but let's just check. How can we get to 8 with the numbers 3 and 5? Well, if we had plus 5 plus 3, that gives us plus 8, or a positive 8. Okay, so the numbers we need are 3 and 5. So with those two numbers, to get to positive 8, I need a positive 5 plus 3, or a positive 3. Okay, so x squared plus 8x plus 15 equals 0 is factorised into two brackets of x plus 5 and x plus 3. Okay, so I'll just leave you with two questions. Then you can pause the video to do it in your own time, and then I'll go through the solutions. Okay, so let's say, for example, we have x squared plus 11x plus 24. And then the final question can be x squared minus 5x plus 6. Sorry, this should be equal 0 as well. So if you'd like to pause the video now, have a go at these in your own time, then unpause the video and then we'll go through the solutions. Okay, now the video is unpaused, let's go through some of these solutions. So again, a equals 1 in both of these. So we can go ahead, set up our brackets with x leading those brackets, and we don't need to worry about any number in front of that x. So now let's think about the factors of 24. So easiest one is 1. 1 multiplied by 24 gives us 24. So the next factor, so add 1, so we get 2. Well, 24 is even, so I know that 2 goes into 24. 2 goes into 24 12 times. 3, does 3 go into 24? Yes, it does. 3 goes into 24 8 times. So thinking about the 8 times table, 8, 16, 24. 4, does 4 go into 24? Yes, it does 6 times. So continuing, does 5 go into 24? No, it does not. 5 goes into 20 and 25, but not 24. Following number would be 6. Does 6 go into 24? Yes, it does. But now, as soon as I write down 6, you'll notice that these factors have started repeating, so I do not need to continue. So these are all the factors of the number 24. And now I work through each factor in turn and think, can I get 2 plus 11 from either of these numbers? Well, 24 and 1, there's no way I can get to positive 11. 12 and 2, if I had 12 plus 2, 12 minus 2, 2, that would be 14, that would be 10, neither of them are 11, so again 2 and 12 doesn't work. 3 and 8, well, if I had 8 plus 3, I get 11. So the fact that I can reach that number with these factors means that these are the numbers for my brackets. 3 and 8. And how do I get to plus 11 with 3 and 8? Well, I'd need a positive 3 and a positive 8. So plus 3 plus 8 would give me plus 11. So that quadratic equation there is factorised into this. So hopefully you got the same answer. Now let's move on to this question. So again, we can set up our brackets with x leading both brackets. And now let's look at the number 6 and let's look at factors of 6. So again, the easiest factor, 1 and 6. So the next number in the chain, 2. Does 2 go into 6? Yes, it does 3 times. Next number in the chain is 3. Now as soon as I start repeating, so these start repeating, I don't need to continue. So these are my factors, 1, 6, 2 and 3. Now let's look through these set of factors in turn to see if we can get minus 5. Okay, if starting with the 6, 6 add 1, 6 minus 1. 6 add 1 is 7. 6 minus 1 is 5. Now, this is where the process is slightly different. You'll notice that we have the right number here as this up here, but the sign in front of it is different. So this means that even though the number is the same, but the sign is different, the factors we need are 1 and 6. Because the number element on its own is correct. So 1 and 6. And now you ask yourself, how we get to minus 5. So the way we get to minus 5 with 1 and 6 is if we had minus 6 plus 1, we would get to minus 5. So minus 6 plus 1 would give us minus 5. So in terms of x squared minus 5x plus 6 equals 0, that is factorised into these sets of brackets. Okay, so hopefully that's been helpful. If you have any questions, then please leave them below. Okay, thank you.